We've been able to speak to your son.
What did you say to him when you visited him? Is he doing? How are you feeling today?
The legal issues involving Shad Diddy and his son Christian King have caught the public's attention due to serious allegations against both men. These troubling accusations have sparked widespread interest and concern as both father and son face significant legal challenges that could impact their futures.
Developing at 5, music mogul Sean Diddy Combs back inside a federal courtroom here in New York.
All right, a trial date's now been set for May 5th of next year. Lisa Evers live in Lower Manhattan with the very latest today. Lisa.
Well, Stephen, Natasha, this was Sean Diddy Combs' third time in the courthouse you see right behind me, his first time before a new judge. They did handle these calendar matters and also set that May 5th, 2025 date for the trial to begin. But what was most striking was that his mother, Janice Combs, who's been with him his whole life, flew up from Florida to be with him, as did most of his children, in a show of support. Sean Combs' son, Christian, known professionally as King Combs, held his grandmother's hand as they left the courthouse with his other siblings.
We want to hear from you. Anything you want to say at this point.
Judge Arun Subramanian acknowledged that his mother, Janice Combs, came from Florida for her son, and that his kids also traveled to be in the same courtroom with him. Combs' attorney, Anthony Rico, sat by his side throughout the proceeding. He's handling the appeal of his bail denial, which is a separate case in the appeals court.
He's making an adjustment. He had his family here today to support him. We really want to put an end to all of the clowning that we see on the internet. This is a serious proceeding with serious consequences.
The judge set a trial date of May 5th, 2025. The lead federal prosecutor took issue with Combs' attorney Mark Agnifillo's extensive comments in a TMZ documentary, alleging the government was guilty of racial bias and targeting Combs. Agnifillo complained about women's rights attorney Gloria Allred represents some of the accusers of Combs in civil cases and spoke outside the court.
It's challenging because for many of them, remembering what they allege he did to them is triggering and traumatizing.
Diddy's arrest has sparked widespread speculation, leaving many wondering about the next developments. Let's take a closer look at the key events and explore the implications of the serious accusations facing both Diddy and his son King. The next status conference for the case is scheduled for the 18th, adding further suspense to the situation.
Was set for the next status conference. For now, Combs is back at MDC. He's been denied bail twice. His last hope of getting out before that May 2025 trial date beginning is for the appeals court to reverse the bail denial, and that could happen anytime within the next couple of weeks. We're live here in front of the courthouse. Let's check in with Teresa Priolo. She's been outside most of the day here. Teresa, what was it like out here?
There were so many people out here, Lisa. As you know, you were out here as well. P. Diddy is an international superstar, and so you have to imagine that this is a case that is bringing people from all over the world. We've seen local media here, national media, and yes, international media too, with also a huge showing among entertainment journalists. But we also saw today a lot of citizen journalists that were out here as well. People who grew up on Diddy's music, whose albums were the soundtrack of their lives, and they just told me that they feel like they needed to come down here and to just catch a glimpse of it all. Of course, we know that Diddy remains behind bars at MDC, but that's not stopping the crowds or the interest in this case.
I'm studying forensic sciences, so, and my big thing is women and children, to protect women and children. So when I heard all of this going down, it was, just the hair on my back just went up.
If he's doing things like this, he needs to be in jail. There's nothing. Diddy needs to go to jail if this is what he's about.
So you might be wondering how the crowds that we saw out here today compared to other high-profile trials like Ghislaine Maxwell, maybe Harvey Weinstein, even Donald Trump. I can tell you, at least from what I saw out here today, this is nothing like what we saw with Donald Trump. But Lisa, I would imagine that as this trial gets closer to its date of May 5th, that we might be seeing some of the crowds like we saw with Ghislaine Maxwell, people lining up really early in the morning, getting their tickets, trying to get inside.
No, Teresa, definitely. This is very early in the whole process. I mean, they just set the trial date today of May 25th, and I think it's going to draw more and more more people as we go forward. In fact, the next court date here is December 18th. That will be for the next status conference. But there's a lot of other issues that they have to consider as well in terms of the evidence. The judge gave them until December 31st to deal with all the discovery of the evidence. That means both sides have to have the access to all of the evidence that they have, which is many dozens of terabytes from more than 90 telephones and electronic devices they confiscated during those raids. And then the other thing that was significant about today too, Teresa, was that the prosecutor said in no uncertain terms and quite emphatically, because everything else was, she was very even-tempered, she said, make no mistake about it, this investigation is still ongoing and we expect to have a superseding indictment, meaning more charges against Diddy. That's the latest here from federal court. Back to you in the studio.
At the center of the legal turmoil is Grace Omar, a 25-year-old woman who has filed a civil lawsuit against King, accusing him of serious allegations involving C*GLE.
You guys have any comment going into court? How's he doing? Anything you want to say to the press while we're going inside? No. How's he doing?
The incident occurred while she was working on a yacht in 2022. The civil lawsuit, filed in April of this year, has intensified the public scrutiny surrounding the Combs family, with fresh allegations now emerging against Diddy. The legal battles have become a major point of focus, drawing widespread media attention.
These legal troubles continue to mount. His mother is coming to his defense in what she calls the public lynching of her son. Janice Smalls Combs released a statement on Sunday through her attorney saying, quote, she's devastated and profoundly saddened by the allegations, but believes that her son deserves a chance to prove his innocence. The statement reads in part, quote, it is heartbreaking to see my son judged not for the truth, but for a narrative created out of lies, to bear witness what seems like a public lynching of my son before he's had the opportunity to prove his innocence is a pain too unbearable to put into words. His mother's statement goes on to say, quote, this injustice has been unbearable for our family. The worst part of this ordeal is watching my beloved son be stripped of his dignity, not for what he did, but for what people chose to believe about him. So now let's talk about whether Diddy's mom could be a factor that affects the outcome of his trial. Let's bring in our power panel. It is Ladies Morning today. Talk about beauty and brains on the program. Here we have it. Still with us, former homicide prosecutor Melba Pearson, domestic violence expert, former law enforcement officer Claudia King, and entertainment commentator Holland Reed. Okay, let's begin just talking about Mom. I think we all feel for his mom, right? Mom has nothing to do with any of these allegations, and reading these statements, you feel for her, don't you, right? And could she affect this case or what people think about the case? Holland Reed, I'd love to start with you, please, on the sentiment that the entertainment industry is feeling after hearing Mom speaking out.
I'm a mother. I have a 23-year-old grown man at home, and I love him dearly, and I would protect him at all costs. Unfortunately, this statement reads like a book of excuses for her son. She should have, I think, left this to the defense. This is so much bigger than the instinctive, intuitive nature of protecting your child. It's so much bigger than that, and her statement, it seems to be corroborating.
Recently, Diddy was arrested in New York, adding to the ongoing controversy. The arrest took place on Monday, September 16th, and the next day a 14-page indictment was made public, intensifying the attention surrounding the case and the legal issues facing both Diddy and his son.
Logical liar and has been. Yes, we all make mistakes. Yes, we want to protect our children when they don't do the right thing or go down the wrong path. But I would also say, hey, mom, maybe watch the video, look at the allegations and really read them through. This is not just a mom trying to protect her son. She's trying to honestly paint a new narrative, which I don't think is going to help him in the end.
Holland, appreciate that. Claudia King, let me go to you next, please. What do you think about mom? Is mom at all valuable to investigators here as any kind of witness? Do you think there's any need to talk to her? Curious your thoughts on that.
I think they'll probably talk to her, but I honestly don't think there's going to be a lot of value in that for the reasons that Holland just pointed out. You know, she's very clearly on the side of her son, which we cannot blame her for that. She's a mom. She's going to protect her child, but she's clearly swayed in her beliefs towards him. So they might talk to her just to check it off, you know, the list, but I don't think it will provide any evidentiary value for them.
Claudia, appreciate that. Melba, legally, is there anything you can see as we look ahead to the trial that mom could perhaps become a part of here?
Well, certainly I expect that she will be present in trial each and every single day, sitting in the front row, likely with Diddy's kids and any other family members, just to, again, show that solidarity coming.
The document alleged that Diddy engaged in abusive behavior, including threats, coercion, and even trafficking. Diddy has pleaded not guilty to these serious charges, which include racketeering, conspiracy, and transportation for prostitution-related activities. This further complicates the legal situation and fuels public controversy.
Would see her giving maybe interviews trying to sway public opinion, but at the end of the day, I concur with what my two co-guests have said. You know, at the end of the day, look at the Cassie video. And if you weren't ashamed of your son after he beat a skinny, defenseless woman within an inch of his life, then she's living in willful ignorance. And, you know, she's not doing anything to help her son's case. Like Holland said, let the defense talk and stay out of it, because he's dead wrong and he's not getting out from under this.
That's a really great point, Mel, but the Cassie video, that was not addressed. You know, it was more about the public sentiment. She's convinced that people are convicting her son before even hearing the evidence in the case. I really appreciate that comment you just made about that video. There was nothing in regards to that from what we've seen. As for what's ahead for Diddy, let's shift gears to that, because tomorrow he's going to be back in court, and there are new reports that there's a brand new judge who's going to be overseeing his case. So that could potentially mean another chance for a third request at bond. Remember, he's been before two different federal judges. Both of them denied him bond, both really on the same major grounds, that he could intimidate victims or witnesses, and they see him as a threat in that regard. So when he's due back in court tomorrow, let's talk a little bit about what we can expect. We don't have a trial date yet. What can we expect when he comes to court? Do you think we will see a request for a bond reduction or modification? Melba Pearson, let me go to you first on this, please. Legally, what do you think we're going to see?
Absolutely. I think the defense is going to try again to either reduce his bail or get some other conditions of release, maybe home confinement or something along those lines. I don't anticipate that it will be successful, again, based on the same argument around intimidation, around safety to the community, around potentially being a flight risk but at the end of the day, he is well known and is very visible. So unless he gets plastic surgery, it's going to be kind of hard for him to disappear. But at the end of the day, the safety to the community, as well as the intimidation aspect, I think is going to, reign supreme, and he's not.
The legal battle surrounding Diddy escalated when a New York judge denied him bail on September 17th, ensuring he remains in custody until his trial. The situation grew more tense when his appeal to overturn this decision was rejected on September 18th. As Diddy remains behind bars, both the public and media are closely monitoring the case, eagerly awaiting how the serious charges against him will be addressed in court. The growing attention highlights the increasing stakes in this high-profile legal drama.
I believe there's probably going to be some scheduling discussions in terms of, okay, depositions or, any outstanding discovery matters, anything along those lines, and maybe just kind of setting forth when a potential trial date might be, when a reasonable time to set a trial date might be.
That's a really good point, Melba. Thank you for that. Holland, let me go to you, please, on outside of the courthouse tomorrow, because we know optics are everything, especially in a high-profile case like this. The last appearance, we saw his children. What do we expect in terms of media interest, support for him, or, support, for victims and people who might just be there because they want to see justice for everybody affected by these allegations?
I think it's going back to the same, statement about the mother. It's very quiet in Hollywood. It's very quiet in entertainment, the music industry across the board, because nobody wants to touch this. As far as those that have their own entities to protect. What you're going to see, though, is the continued interest in who else is going to be exposed. You have mom coming out, of course, protecting him and making a statement, but who else do you really have protecting him or standing up for him? Not many people. So I think what you're going to see is maybe his closest family trying to spin the narrative, but you're going to have the same kind of deafening silence that we've been seeing, because everyone is, again, like I said before, getting their ducks in a row. They're lawyering up because they're going to start exposing so much more that has been going on for decades. And I think that's what we're gearing up for, is a show much like an O.J. Simpson or the Menendez brothers. It's going to be the TV-worthy court TV that we expect to see with someone of his stature.
Oh, and I think you're exactly right. Thank you for that. And speaking of the magnitude of this, perfect question to send to you, Claudia King. When we think about this not being over, we don't know what investigators are doing right now. Tell us, what do you think they're doing at this juncture?
They are talking to absolutely everybody that they can, because there are going to be additional arrests, I believe, and so they're looking at who else is involved and what evidence they have for that.
Really appreciate it. Great insight from you all. Claudia, I know you're able to stick around with us. I have to say goodbye, and a big thank you to Melba Pearson and Holland Reed. We'll see you ladies soon. Thank you.
The connection between Diddy's case and the allegations against his son King is notable. King, 26, is accused of C** assaulting Omar K. while she was working on a yacht. Omar K.'s lawyer, Rodney Estes, has been vocal about the charges, calling Diddy's arrest the first step toward justice.
It's Justin King Combs. King, how you doing this morning? How's it going, Justin? Quincy, how you feeling this morning? How are the twins?
In a statement provided to US Weekly, Diggs expressed optimism that more victims would come forward. He emphasized that the arrest was an important step not only for his client, but for all of Diddy's alleged victims. Diggs stated, "We knew this was coming. The evidence is very clear, and it was only a matter of time."
Diddy Combs' kids are speaking out for the first time since the music mogul was taken into custody. 4 of his 7 children released a statement on Instagram saying they want to clear up false rumors about their mother. Meanwhile, a new accuser is coming forward. Senior investigative correspondent Aaron Katursky has the latest.
The children of Sean Diddy Combs are speaking out for the first time since their father's arrest last week. 4 of Combs' 7 children writing on Instagram, "We have seen so many hurtful and false rumors circulating about our parents, Kim Porter and Sean Combs' relationship, as well as about our mom's tragic passing, that we feel the need to speak out. Claims that our mom wrote a book are simply untrue. She did not. And anyone claiming to have a manuscript is misrepresenting themselves." A 60-page unverified book published earlier this month claimed to be the collection of diaries of Porter, who died at the age of 47 in 2018. The children, who don't mention their father's arrest in the statement, go on to write, "Our mother should be remembered for the beautiful, strong, kind, and loving woman she was. Her memory should not be tainted by horrific conspiracy theories." The message coming as another accuser goes public with allegations against Combs. Talia Graves claims in a civil lawsuit Combs and his bodyguard drugged, bound, and raped her in 2001 and filmed it.
It's a pain that reaches into your very core of who you are and leaving emotional scars that may never fully heal.
The 54-year-old Combs has pleaded not guilty to charges he led a criminal conspiracy that abused women.
And Aaron Katursky joins me now with more on this. Aaron, how significant is it to have a new accuser making claims like this on camera as Diddy's facing these criminal charges?
Well, look, she is detailing in an anguished appearance with her attorney, Gloria Allred, what she said happened to her in 2001 and the lasting impact that she said it had on her and coming.
This statement underscores the confidence the Omar K team has in their case. Diggs left the criminal proceedings in the hands of the justice system, but expressed hope that the civil cases would soon reveal the truth and provide justice to his clients. His confidence also suggests that he expects more women to step forward with their own allegations against the music mogul.
Sean Combs' arrest on criminal charges perhaps lends some additional credibility because he's already been charged in a racketeering conspiracy that sought out women for abuse.
She's also filed a civil suit. Could that affect the criminal case at all?
The civil suit is at least the 12th filed against Sean Diddy Combs, and the first one from last November by Cassie Ventura is really what touched off the criminal case that led to Diddy's arrest and subsequent not guilty plea on the 3 criminal counts. Without the civil suit, there are probably not criminal charges against Sean Combs, but all the civil cases are now likely to be paused while the criminal case takes priority.
Now, some of Combs' children issued this statement on Instagram, speaking out in defense of their mother, but they didn't really mention their father. What do you make of that?
It was an interesting statement coming a little more than a week after Combs' arrest here in New York. And the children seemed quite protective of Kim Porter's legacy because there's this 60-page unverified manuscript online that claims to be Kim Porter's diary entries or a compilation of some of her thoughts. And the children said that it just isn't true. And they didn't want her and her memory commingled with him and the criminal case that he's now facing.
And what's next in that case now?
He's back in court in early October. For now, he is being housed in protective custody at a federal jail in Brooklyn. He's in a dormitory-style open housing cell with Sam Bankman-Fried, among others.
All right. Senior investigative correspondent Aaron Katursky, thank you.
On the flip side, Diddy's lawyer Mark Agnello remains adamant about his client's innocence. In an interview with CNN's Caitlin Collins, Agnello insisted that Diddy is innocent and expressed confidence that he would win the trial.
In an interview with CNN's Caitlin Collins, Agnello insisted that Diddy is innocent and expressed confidence that he would win the trial.
I believe he's innocent. Clip 12. He also stated that Diddy is prepared to go to trial and believes that the legal system will ultimately prove his...
The case against Sean Combs might as well just be called the freak-offs. These allegedly illegal freak-offs. It's all about the freak-offs in one way, shape, or form.
Freak-offs?
Freak-offs.
Freak-offs. Freak-offs.
The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time.
Prosecutors say that these were elaborately produced events, bringing lighting in, cameras, linens.
Prosecutors said he would masturbate during these freak-offs, and women had no choice.
Alleged drug-fueled orgies, prostitution, and a cover-up. Freak-offs, as they're called, at the core of a searing 3-count federal indictment against Sean Diddy Combs.
Sex trafficking, racketeering conspiracy, interstate transportation for prostitution.
Now a look at the charges that threatened to end his career and his freedom. Inside the fall from grace from the powerful impresario. A reckoning that some say is long overdue.
He says, oh, I'm hip-hop. Yeah, well, you know what? Hip-hop deserves better.
During bi-coastal raids on his homes in LA and Miami, authorities say they seized various freak-off supplies, including drugs, and more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant.
Federal prosecutors said Sean Combs did not act alone. He had assistants, managers, security staff who would make sure that women and male prostitutes were at these freak-offs, that the hotel rooms where they were staged were stocked with supplies like baby oil and lubricant.
For decades, Diddy reigned as
how the man who allegedly behaved so abusively was able to do it so often and for so long.
The culture of silence was colossal. You know, it really protected Sean for a number of years.
These people think that they're so powerful that was never going to catch up with them.
Just this week, a new accuser coming forward, alleging in a civil lawsuit Diddy raped her at his recording studio.
The internal pain after being sexually assaulted has been incredibly deep and hard to put into words.
The latest filed by
Legal troubles are far from over. In addition to C** assault, King is also accused of C** harassment and infliction of emotional distress in the same lawsuit.
Who says in her lawsuit that in 2001, she was, quote, bound and restrained while Diddy mercilessly raped her. She alleges he, quote, video recorded the encounter and had shown the video to multiple men.
Flashbacks, nightmares, and intrusive thoughts make me feel like it's a constant struggle.
Attorneys for Diddy did not respond to a request for comment on this case.
In court, as he's faced criminal charges, Diddy pleading not guilty and denied bail twice. Prosecutors painting a picture of the 54-year-old mogul who, behind his lavish lifestyle, allegedly hid a dark secret.
According to the indictment, the agents found weapons, including AR-15 style rifles, in Diddy's closet. The serial numbers were defaced. They also say they found recordings of freak-offs. And the evidence was then used to blackmail these women if they didn't cooperate more.
Diddy's longtime ex-girlfriend, Cassandra Cassie Ventura, filing a lawsuit against them last year that changed everything.
He would direct her how to touch the sex worker, how to pour like oil over her body, and he would watch these things happen while he was masturbating.
Cassie Ventura's lawsuit gave the blueprint for the Southern District of New York to investigate Sean Combs, and the lawsuits that followed gave the brick and mortar to build the case against him.
Initially, Diddy denied all wrongdoing, but after the surveillance video surfaced, he spoke out on his social media.
My behavior on that video is inexcusable.
King is also accused of C** harassment and infliction of emotional distress.
Evidence of sex trafficking, but as the simple breakdown of a 10-year loving relationship. And the judge interrupted and said, what's love got to do with that, with kicking someone?
Cassie's lawsuit would be just the beginning of Diddy's downfall. It was settled in 24 hours, but at least 11 others have since come forward too with their own civil lawsuits. Diddy denies the allegations in these lawsuits. Many are seeing echoes of the groundbreaking federal sex abuse case against R&B singer R. Kelly in Diddy's new indictment.
This very powerful man in the music industry decided to use his power to hurt others. I've spoken to the other girls that are involved in my case, and we all were deeply saddened and triggered.
Lizette Martinez says she had a year-long abusive relationship with R. Kelly.
Let's just say, like, I was violated, and I'll never forget it.
After dozens came forward, Kelly was found guilty of racketeering, sex trafficking, and later child pornography. He's currently serving out a 30-year prison sentence. Lizette gave a victim impact statement at his trial.
The industry is not the same after we spoke out and decided to hold people accountable. Him and Rob are a lot alike in that Robert controlled us. These are predators. They're not dangling a career in front of you. They use the power to get you to where they want you.
For now, Diddy remains in jail as he awaits trial. Decades of silence that accusers say once shielded.
Team has claimed that what was supposed to be a wholesome family excursion aboard the yacht quickly turned into a hedonistic environment. These accusations paint a dark picture of what allegedly occurred during the trip.
Titled music mogul Sean Combs' mother is defending her son. She's calling the charges of sex trafficking and racketeering a public lynching and a pain too unbearable to put into words. Janice Combs has often been seen by his side at glamorous red carpet events. She's also seen in this video at his infamous white party in the Hamptons. It is heartbreaking to see my son judged not for the truth, but for a narrative created out of lies, she says in a just-released statement that also asks people to give him a chance to prove his innocence. Girlfriend Cassie in 2016. My son may not have been entirely truthful about certain things, such as denying he has ever gotten violent with an ex-girlfriend when the hotel surveillance showed otherwise. Meanwhile, a lawyer says she has seen stills from an alleged sex tape that she says shows Sean Combs having sex with a very famous star. How famous is this star in this alleged video?
I would venture to say way more famous. I think there are more people who know who that person is than who Diddy is.
How might this affect that person's career if this tape gets out?
Severely. I think it's the only word. If I were them, I wouldn't want this tape out. I think it would have immense impact on not only their career, but their personal lives as well.
She refused to reveal who the star is. Combs has denied it.
Dyer has strongly rejected the allegations, urging the public to remain skeptical, particularly due to the involvement of Omar K's attorney, Tyrone Blackburn. Dyer highlighted Blackburn's history of filing lawsuits in federal court, often to attract media attention and pressure defendants into settlements. He argued that Blackburn's tactics seem aimed at exploiting high-profile figures like King and Diddy for leverage, suggesting that the case was being used as a media tool.
This is Combs in court after prosecutors arrested him at a hotel in Manhattan. It's where he's apparently been living for weeks, according to what a person familiar with the move tells NBC News. All of it a tipping point now in that sprawling federal investigation into the superstar's alleged years of sex crimes dating back to 2009. As we're just getting in some new and deeply disturbing details about the allegations against him. What looks like a massive criminal operation, allegedly. At least 50 victims and witnesses so far. And at the center of it, these hours and days-long sex acts known as, in their words, freak-offs that Combs supposedly orchestrated to abuse his victims.
Combs allegedly planned and controlled the sex performances, which he called freak-offs, and he often electronically recorded them.
Prosecutors say Combs punched and kicked his victims to try to keep them under control. He'd also, they say, filled them up with drugs like ketamine and ecstasy for long periods of time, even using incriminating records to try to manipulate his victims. Prosecutors say they discovered this wide range of evidence against Combs in several raids. They found things, they say, like AR-15s, narcotics, more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricants. We should note here that an attorney for Combs says that he, I'm quoting here, will fight this with all of his energy. His team is already planning to appeal the bail ruling, meaning they will be back in court tomorrow, as Combs has, as we mentioned, pleaded not guilty. We've got team coverage, Laura Jarrett standing by with the legal analysis piece of it. But I want to start outside court with Julia Ainsley, because Julia, this went fairly late into the day. I know you've been at the courthouse as a judge, as we've just learned, is denying this request for bail. Explain why that is and what else we've learned today.
Yeah, that's right. We were in there for